Hey friends, Mark Holmes here. Apologize for that. Hopefully the sound is a little bit better on here now, and we're trying to go ahead and do our first webcast here. It's something you guys have requested. You wanted to see the Jobu Sports Report live, and hopefully if this works well, we'll do some more tomorrow night during the Dallas-Minnesota Vikings game. And I see we have our first viewer that's up. Oh, we're up to 5 viewers. Welcome to the Jobu Sports Report. I am Mark Holmes. This is Cowboy Jobu, and thank you guys for tuning in. Forgive me, I am new with all this technology stuff. I just got a new web camera. The picture looks fantastic, but unfortunately, I was always told that I have a voice for radio. And not so much the looks. And high def is not good for everyone because it kind of shows how fat I am and how old I am. But anyway, I look at it as experience because it's all the years of watching football and things like that that I can relate to you guys with. Now, as always, let me see if I can get to the live stream event on this so I can see questions that you may have. And I should be there already, and bear with me. I'm trying to get to the question sections here, live streaming. And it says we're offline. Forgive me, I'm still getting the hang of this, and trying to get the chat stuff. Well, unfortunately, I can't see the chats coming in the way it should be. So I really want to get your questions and answers up. But anyway, back to the game tomorrow night. How fantastic is it that the Dallas Cowboys are 10-1 when nobody gave us a chance to be there? I mean, everybody pretty much has got us being the #1 team in the NFL. Of course, there's a few haters out there. One I was talking about when I had the first attempt on this, Bart Scott. It's kind of interesting that Bart Scott was saying that he doesn't think that the Dallas Cowboys are even the best team in our division. So when you start looking and listening to some of these idiots out there, you really just kind of shake your head, because I believe we beat the Washington Redskins twice now. We've got a better defense, although he says the Washington Redskins have a great running game. And sorry, I'm trying to find the live stream in here and make sure that we are still up and running. But anyway, this stuff is crazy. Let's see, where are you? Where are you? It says my stream is offline. Events, hold on. Resume Hangout on air. Okay. I don't want to join myself. Where's my live control room? Aha. Stream status is good. Okay. We have, okay, now where's actually the stream? I'm trying to find everything on here. And if anybody out there knows how to do this better than me, please let me know. Because like I always tell you guys, I'm old. Okay. Events. I've got 80 of you guys watching, and you're watching me be an idiot at the moment. Resume Hangout. I really wish I could figure out where your questions are coming through, because take me there. Okay. Google Hangouts says that I have 82 people here watching me make an idiot. Okay, back to the Dallas Cowboys. What's amazing is when you start listening to a lot of the so-called experts, and a lot of people always ask me, why do I not do good old draft seats? And here comes my lovely wife.
I see you struggling.
Yes, thank you. For some reason, I'm thinking my wife is trying to help me here. The picture is fantastic, but I can't seem to get to the live stream.
When do you expect Mo to be back?
Morse Claiborne?
Jeffrey Deason says.
Okay, Jeffrey Deason. Okay, great. My wonderful wife, who is much more computer literate than I am. Morse Claiborne should be back before the end of the season. Unfortunately, he tore a bone off of his pelvis, and it's healing. They could have done surgery on it, but decided to try and wait on that. But they're hopefully maybe 3 weeks, 4 weeks at the most. Now, the only problem is, honey, with the sound up, you could probably getting sound in the background. Again, forgive me because this is the first time I've done a web broadcast.
Would Romo fit in another system? Christian Vasquez asked.
Would Tony Romo fit in another system? He's a good quarterback, and he probably could, but unfortunately, as they say, teaching an old dog a new trick is not always an easy thing to do. So when you go to a new system, it may be a little bit more difficult. And a lot of things that Tony Romo does, you can't really replicate because he ends up making up so much as he goes along. You know, a lot of times the relationship he had with Terrence Williams, you'll notice he would end up making all kinds of different moves and things, and he would end up hitting, Terrence Williams on a deep pass and stuff because those weren't the exact design plays, but because he could buy time, then he could end up doing a lot more than other things. But he would work with a lot of these systems because there's a lot of bad quarterbacks that are out there.
So what are your thoughts on Coach Garrett?
Jason Garrett. I have never been a big Jason Garrett fan. He's gotten better as far as coaching wise, but when you ice your own kicker, and his clock management skills in past years have been awful, horrendous. And a lot of times my biggest thing is, and you'll notice, well, you can't notice because it's not up here, but I actually have my book, Coaching for Dummies, that I sent to Jason Garrett, because when you're up with a big lead like they had been against Green Bay, and when you think about it, Green Bay, they were up, I think, 26-3 at the half. They ended up throwing the ball more that second half and ended up losing the game than Green Bay, who was trying to catch up. When you've had games where you have played against Detroit twice, again, second half, you're up by 20 points and you're still passing like crazy. Romo throws a couple of picks, they get back in the game, we end up losing those. Some of those games, had we won those, we would have never had those 8-8 seasons and been in the playoffs. Now, this year, the clock management has been a lot better. They haven't been making quite as many mistakes, so to speak. So they have come along a lot better than they used to, at least in my mind, they have.
Lewis says, pass rush, duck. What's that mean?
Well, pass rush, yeah. We've always needed a pass rush, and I for one who wanted to get a great pass rusher. I looked at Aaron Donald and I prayed that we could have gotten him and he would have been fantastic in our system. We do need a pass rush. However, the reason why we haven't had any sacks the last 4 games partially is because of our back end not being as good as it has been. With Morse Claiborne out, with Church out, those things have hurt because when you can hold up the defense of the receivers with the defense, it gives your line more time to go ahead and make a move and hopefully get a sack. The other way, of course, is you have a great defensive lineman that's able to get there and put pressure on that way. So at least with the Dallas Cowboys offense, as young as it is, I mean, you only have Jason Witten who's in his 30s. Now you got Dak starting. Your offensive line is all under 25. What they'll be able to do next year is, with that extra cash, spend some money in free agency on defensive line as well as draft for it. My lovely wife. Next question.
So I don't know if this is the same question, but Dave Wood wants to know, can our pass rush step up against the Vikings?
Oh, okay. Here's the thing. Look for our defense to get healthy the next 2 weeks because the Minnesota Vikings offense is putrid. And when I say putrid, they're 32nd in total yards with about 294 yards a game. Let's put it this way. The Cleveland Browns end up having 313. Yes, the Cleveland Browns that are thinking about getting RG3 back on the field, that are on to their 4th quarterback, gets more yardage on offense. They end up getting about 100 yards, 71 yards a game rushing, which is pathetic. Only 2.8 yards a game. And their passing is not a whole lot better. They're getting 223 yards. So as far as that goes, look for our defense to have a monster game, as well as the following week against the New York Giants and Eli Manning, because they're just as bad. But we'll deal with them next week. Right now, we want to take care of the Minnesota Vikings and go 11-1. And by the way, if we win that game tomorrow, and we end up having either Tampa Bay or the Washington Redskins lose, then guess what? We have already locked up a playoff spot. So next question for my lovely wife.
Brandon Lattimore would like a shout out.
Brandon Lattimore, you got your shout out, buddy. Okay. I've got actually a question I had earlier that I can actually answer right now, since I have my lovely wife here as my assistant. Somebody asked a question if Jobu gets the front seat and she gets put in the back. No.
Robert Aman said, "You look like Peter Griffin." No offense.
Peter Griffin?
From Family Guy.
I know Peter Griffin. Is it the stomach? I don't know. Peter Griffin.
I think you look great, honey.
Okay. My wife thinks I look great, but she's my wife, so she's got to say that.
Young Boss says, "Hey, Mark."
Hey, young boss.
Cheering for Dallas Cowboys.
Of course. Shout out to you Giant trolls that have been coming in all week.
Thoughts on Skip Bayless?
Skip Bayless. Well, I used to like him on First Take. Although, what you have to realize with the shows on this, they're for entertainment purposes only, okay? That stuff is just fake drama and so on. But Skip kind of gets on my nerves because he kind of throws gasoline on a fire. And sometimes he'll kind of cross the line a lot more than is really necessary. The whole thing with Troy Aikman saying that he was gay or might be homosexual or things like that, that just kind of bugged me. And I've tried this show a couple times, but I'm sorry, I just have a hard time with Shannon Sharp because I put this reference out yesterday and nobody knew what it was, but it's kind of like watching Mr. Ed. And Mr. Ed was a talking horse, a show way back in the 60s. And that's what listening to Shannon Sharp is. And it's just so much fake. You know, he's always, oh, the Dallas Cowboys, man, I can't stand them Dallas Cowboys, and oh, they're pathetic. They're not going anywhere, Skip. I just can't do it. For whatever reason, I'm addicted to Stephen A. Smith, you know, and I like to think of myself as the anti-Stephen A. Smith and trying to call him out. Next one,
honey. 5 Ring Boys says, "What's up, Mark? What team on our schedule do you think is the toughest?"
What team is the toughest? Well, I think actually we just played the toughest team that was on our schedule because actually the Washington Redskins scare me more than anybody else. And I hope we don't meet them in the playoffs because being a team 3 times in a row is definitely difficult. The Lions, with their kind of fourth quarter comebacks, which kind of defy reason or logic, kind of worry me. Tampa Bay's not too bad, but I'm not really that worried about them. Minnesota, like I said, their offense stinks. You got the Eagles, who, by the way, they're pretty much dead right now. And who did I miss? I can't say I fear any of them, but you can always have a letdown on any given Sunday.
Jose Melendez says, "Would you like to see Romo back next season?"
At first, I was kind of like, with Tony Romo coming back next season, well, the problem with that is sooner or later, Dak's going to have a bad game. And unfortunately, you have some Romo fans that are truly like, still, Tony Romo will be doing even better. Will Kane is famous for throwing that gasoline on the fire. The way I look at it is unfortunately, football is a business, and you got to take your emotions out of it. When you look at what happened to, say, Joe Montana with 3 Super Bowl rings, they had no problem letting him go. And if you can better the team by doing so, then you have to do it. If you can trade him, get a couple of draft picks, or if you can cut him and save that cap room and save that money down the road, then you do that to help the team. If he's willing to take a pay cut and doesn't mind being the backup, that's possible. But the problem with that is when Dak has a bad game, everybody's going to say, bring in Romo.
Mutt 310.
Mutt.
Mr. Mutt.
Mr. Mutt.
Mr. Mutt wants to know what you think about Doug Free.
Doug Free. Well, he lets a lot of guys free. In fact, I think 2 of Dak's fumbles this year were players that got past Doug. He's a good player. He's getting a little long in the tooth, but he's not as strong as the younger guys that are on that offensive line. So they may look to upgrade that in the next couple of years, next year, maybe even the draft. So, yeah, he would be probably the weakest link as far as a player on the team. But supposedly he's a really good as far as leadership person on the team.
Rose wants to know who deserves MVP right now.
MVP? I've done a video about this, and I believe it should be Dak Prescott because, of course, everybody's saying that, oh, it should be Zeke Elliott. Now the dark horse is Carr from the Raiders. But I look at it this way. Last year, we had the 6th-rated rushing attack in the NFL. We had Darren McFadden, who was the 4th-rated rusher last year. We had the same offensive line with the exception of Collins being out for Ron Leary. And yet, with that good running game, our offense was still putrid as far as passing goes. So when you look at pretty much this offense being exactly the same, except we're putting in Ezekiel Elliott instead of Darren McFadden. And over the course of the last 4 games, Elliott has only averaged 100 yards per game. But you look at the amount of points that are scored and the way that ball is being distributed, to me, the factor is Dak Prescott. To me, that is your MVP right there. Now, the argument is, of course, that Tom Brady has better numbers. But here's the thing. With Tom Brady missing 4 games, they went 3-1 with quarterbacks that hadn't played before. So you can take Tom Brady off of that system, as Matt Castle showed for that season, and still win games. I don't know that the Dallas Cowboys would be 10-1 with, say, Brandon Wheaton or one of these other journeyman quarterback at the helm. I think Dak Prescott is the MVP.
Well, you just answered Justin Lacefield's question, which was, do you think Dak should be MVP?
I definitely think that. Okay. Everybody knows, or if you don't know, and if you're new to the Jobu Report, I have been on the Dak bus since the Senior Bowl. When I looked at the numbers, and this is one of the things that I think is great, and forgive me, I sometimes go off on tangents, is when you listen to the experts, they'll put out a narrative. It's not like there's thousands of guys that are out there making the calls. You only have a few guys that go through there, they scout, and they get the information, and they pass it around. And that becomes a narrative. And that's why I always try and look at my own statistics and things like that and put it together and come up with my own conclusions. So when a couple of guys said, well, Dak is in, not pro-style offense. He's got 40 rushing touchdowns. He's a running quarterback. He's from the Southeast Conference, and the only good quarterbacks that ever came out of there are Tim Tebow. They immediately labeled him as Tim Tebow 2.0 with just a better arm. So you can't necessarily go by what the experts will say. And I'm sorry, I got off on a tangent and I forgot what the question was.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to wrap that up.
Okay. What was the question again?
Moved on to the next.
Okay. All right. So somewhere in there's an answer for that question, but it drove me into another point that don't believe everything you hear on the sports shows.
You're getting some, kudos from some folks. David says, great job, Mark.
Thank you.
Leticia Herrera says, I always look forward to hearing all of your reports. Ruben Gomez says, really like your view on the boys, Mark.
Oh, thank you.
Lone Star, Texas wants to know your thoughts on Carr. Brandon
Carr? I got to meet Brandon Carr and actually drive him around Washington, D.C. I was lucky enough that he was here for a youth symposium. Great guy, gives back to the community and things like that. Now, one thing you've got to say about Brandon Carr is he never misses games. He gets a bad rap because, let's be honest, without a pass rush, it's a lot harder to be a cornerback than it is when you have a great pass rush. I still think he's a very good player. I can't say that he's a shutdown corner, but he's definitely a guy that you want on your team, personality-wise, and so forth. And my lovely wife.
Just compliments, awesome, bro. Haha first, great job, Mark. What's up? Do you think Tony will ever play as a Cowboy again? Did you answer that question?
No, actually, I didn't. Here's the thing about football. Everybody's always one play from being retired. So you never know what may happen. When Tom Brady took over for Drew Bledsoe, Tom Brady went out, Drew Bledsoe came in, won a game, helped carry them to the Super Bowl. So who knows what the final book on Tony Romo is. I'd hate to say it, but, Dak could go out and break his leg tomorrow. And then, it's Tony Romo hopefully to the rescue. So it's possible.
Young Boss wants to know, when did Jobu come along?
Jobu. Okay. Well, here's the thing. I'm going to try and make this story quick as possible because it can't get to be long. But to make a long story short, I have a great friend named Richard. And we were going to the Super Bowl in Dallas, and his Steelers were at the Super Bowl. And he was like, dude, he's got this real deep voice. He's like, dude, I would literally die if I could go to the Super Bowl and see my team. Well, as much as I'd like to take him, I couldn't give him my seat. So what I did was I got a terrible towel, and everywhere I went, I took a picture of this towel. And these towels took a life of their own. Basically, I got them with like Phil Simms, with James Brown, Jim Kelly. So everywhere I went, I was getting these pictures with these towels. Well, the following year, the Super Bowl was going to be in New Orleans. So I tried to do a voodoo theme. And I got a couple little voodoo trinkets, and I went to FedEx Field to hex the Redskins. But what happened is I had an Eagle fan who said the Cowboys suck so bad that not even Jobu from the movie Major League could help him. So I made Jobu, and he's been with me ever since 2013.
All right, it looks like I've been going in the opposite direction on this, so backing it up instead of going forward.
Okay. We're still getting out the bugs here.
So there are a lot more questions here. I don't know where to start. Someone says your wife is the real MVP. I
agree. Hey, you know what? I had Doc Walker, former Washington Redskin player. I met him at halftime at a Detroit Lions game. He said, "You outkicked your coverage, son." This was kind of fun.
All right. Boy, there are a lot of questions in here that I'm just trying to find the beginning now.
Okay.
Should we let McFadden return kicks and punts with Lucky?
He's not a kick returner. Here's the thing. The reason why they activated Darren McFadden is because if they hadn't pulled him out when they did, there's no chance of him to be able to return for the season off of the unable to perform list. So they took him out basically as an insurance policy because if something were to happen to if something were to happen to Zeke or whatever, you're going to want to bring him back in. But as far as him being
you're back.
Okay. He's not really a kick returner, so no, I wouldn't bring him back for just that.
When will Gregory be back?
Randy Gregory? Well, right now the Cowboys are in limbo because the NFL hasn't decided what the deal is, and there's really no rush. But apparently he's failed another drug test, and I think it's actually time to cut ties with them because more than likely he'll be suspended all of next year.
Be back Thursday?
Church has been practicing with a soft cast on his arm, and he should be playing tomorrow night.
Do you see us drafting a pass rusher?
Oh, without a doubt. I see us drafting at least one, if not two, and probably signing a free agent one. That is really the only weak spot on the team, although we may lose some of the cornerbacks between Brandon Carr and Morris Claiborne.
What would you say is our biggest weakness?
Pass rush, defensive line. Although they're making pressure, they're not a bad crew, but you need one dominant pass rusher, a guy that basically makes the quarterback shit his pants.
Do you think our defense will be able to hold off the Giants when that game time comes?
I think so. The Giants' offense is pathetic. I mean, I don't know how many of you guys watched that game, but against the Cleveland Browns, I was actually mystified that they got the ball on the 50-yard line and actually lost 8 yards. And it wasn't the first time they got, I believe it was 3 times they got the ball at midfield and got 0 points out of it. So if you can't score against the Cleveland Browns, buddy, you got real problems.
Will we ever take another snap as a Cowboy?
I don't think so. I'm actually thinking that he may not take another snap ever. I'm thinking that he may actually consider retiring.
Rose wants to know, did you see that Zeke and Dak are numbers 4 and 5 in the MVP race right now?
Yeah, but I still think Dak should be the first.
Shout out to me.
Shout out to my wife. Hey. That's mine.
Garcia. Let's see. How about them Cowboys? Dak. Boy, Chan, we talked about that.
Speaking of how wonderful my lovely wife is, Jobu got a new accessory today. His Dallas Cowboy bow tie. Just like Dak.
Boys need to stay hungry and humble, and that O-line needs to be nasty as fuck. Beat
Okay.
the fight out of them.
Okay, I agree that okay. They need to be hungry as fuck. Okay. Yes, definitely. But here's the thing about the Cowboys that I've really liked this year is nothing faces them, especially when you get Dak out there. He's the calming force out there, and they're never out of a game. But nothing seems to face them. In past years, when Des Bryant would have been challenged by Josh Norman like he would have lost it on the sidelines. In past years, when he wasn't getting the ball, he would be pissed off about not getting the ball. But these guys are focused on winning, and that's why I think that they've got a chance to go all the way.
Sundrop wants to know, do you see the Falcons as a threat come playoff time?
Falcons as a threat come playoff time. Anybody is a threat during playoff time because we've seen the Giants come through and get hot when they should have been or were just a wild card. But the Falcons defense stinks. I mean, they're really, really bad. They can score some points, but I think we can take care of them.
All right. I think you gave a shout out to Brandon Latimer, but I think I've seen it multiple times. So he might get another shout out. Brandon,
he sounds like you're needing a whole lot of love tonight. Brandon Latimer gets a shout out. Thank you for watching and being part of the Jobu Report. One other thing, too, some of the guys were asking about Jobu's T-shirts. So if you go to Jobu Man Cave, you can order one and help us spread the mojo.
Steve Pennington wants to know, why are we at the bottom sack totals for game?
Because we're at the bottom sack total basically because we don't have a monster pass rusher. We were getting more sacks in the first part of the season before our cornerbacks went down, but they just don't have a dominant pass rusher.
Lewis thinks that McFadden should return kicks. Any thoughts on that?
I don't think so. I think you actually want to stick with Lucky. Lucky is actually one of the top returners in the league, and I don't think you're going to get more from Darren McFadden. He's also going to take a valuable spot on the field.
Lone Star wants to know if you think we can beat the Patriots.
Can we beat the Patriots? I think we can beat the Patriots. See, the Patriots end up benefiting from the division that they're in. They have for years because they pretty much usually have a soft schedule. The way Seattle was able to go there and punch them in the throat, I think the Dallas Cowboys can do the same thing. And we're going to be wrapping up in just a few minutes.
What receivers will the Cowboys bring back? Williams, Butler, or neither?
I think the way Williams has been playing, I think that they may end up working on a contract with him. Butler, I've been a little bit disappointed with. He's had a lot of drop passes that are in there, but I think he'll be the cheaper option of the two.
Dallas. Someone said maybe you need a new Charles Haley.
Oh, I would love to have a Charles Haley, but, finding Charles Haleys are few and far between. Shout out to my buddy, Charles Haley right there.
Mark, do you think Seattle is the biggest threat, or who is?
After watching Seattle without a running game, and they don't have a running game other than Russell Wilson running for his life, they're always tough at home, but if the Cowboys keep winning, they won't be playing in Seattle. So, like you said, any team is a threat. You can be overconfident and lose to anybody. I mean, the Cleveland Browns could win a game for all we know.
When are we going to get our corners back?
Corners backs, we're going to have Wilcox back tomorrow. And Claiborne, we should have hopefully by the end of the season. We're hoping in 3 weeks. You got that pulled the bone ripped off of his pelvis, which gotta hurt.
Do you think Dak will beat Ben in his first playoffs?
Big Ben?
I guess.
Well, Big Ben did pretty good. I mean, 13 wins in a row in the regular season. Let's hope we get better than Ben. How's that?
Do you think a lot of this year's success can be attributed to the Cowboys' new training facility?
Can't hurt. I mean, that's a world-class place. Now, the team has always had talent. It just seems like the ball just never mounts the right way. So I don't know if it's necessarily the training facility, but you can't hurt to have a great place like that.
Do you think Zeke will break Eric Dickerson's record?
I don't think they're going to, because I think the Cowboys are looking at Zeke and not overworking him like they did Murray. Because once you get to that 300 rush platform, you end up kind of killing a running back, because then they kind of go off, downhill real quick.
What's your favorite moment of our season so far?
Favorite moment of our season? I would say being at FedEx Field, watching the Dallas Cowboys, when it seemed like all was lost, get that interception in the end zone and drive down the field and beat the Washington Redskins and rip their hearts out.
Someone's wife wants to kiss Jobu.
Okay, not the first one. Okay.
Is AP playing tomorrow?
No.
No.
Although there's rumors that he may be back by the end of the season, but I think he's not going to be.
What kind of rum does Jobu drink?
Well, the Ron Zappa is the favorite one right there, but pretty much any rum will do.
Mark, who is your Mount Rushmore for the Cowboys?
Oh, I got to put Roger Staubach as the top on that one because Roger Staubach has always been my favorite. I got to put Tony Dorsett there. Got to put Emmett in the fourth one. Oh, Lordy. I almost have to say, I'm going to go old school and say Bob Lilly. Mr. Cowboy himself.
Who is the most irreplaceable player on offense?
Who is the most irreplaceable?
He thinks it's Travis Frederick.
I won't go there with that, because the offensive line is so good that they can absorb one player or the other. And I almost say that I actually have to say Dak Prescott, to be honest with you, because the way Dak has put the team together and made them all laser focused, nothing phases us. I would have thought for sure that Jason Witten would have been leaning towards sticking with Tony Romo. I would have thought that that Des Bryant would be upset about not being the focal point of the offense. But somehow, some way, he's got it instilled in everybody that this is about a team.
Chad Turner says, over the next 2 to 3 drafts, defense should be the top priority. Pass rush is number one.
Mm-hmm.
Improving the secondary should be next. And finally, adding another elite LB.
Yeah, well, hopefully Jalen Smith, if he recovers from the leg, and supposedly that nerve is beginning to fire, hopefully he'll end up being, as advertised. Sean Lee has made major strides in staying healthy and being a great linebacker, and we'll probably definitely need another cornerback. Brown's been good. Byron Jones has been fantastic. Claiborne may end up going in free agency because of his injury history. Brandon Carr's getting a little along in the tooth. So, yes, definitely a cornerback will be necessary, and definitely we need a couple of pass rushers.
All right. Are you on a clock here?
No.
We've got quite a few more questions.
Do I have quite a few more? Okay. Well, we were going to wind it up because I know my wife wants to see her favorite show.
This is true. Would you ever consider live streaming the games with your commentary? That's interesting.
Well, that's the reason. Actually, that's part of the reason why we're actually doing this tonight, because a lot of people.
Cody, good idea.
Well, a lot of you guys have been asking me to live stream. I always try and do a halftime report and give you my stuff on it. I don't know about doing a whole game, though. I mean, that's a lot of time. But if that's what you guys want, I can try and give you guys what you asked for.
Name your favorite Cowboy team of all time, if you would.
Oh, boy. I'd actually probably have to say the 72 team, because that first Super Bowl, definitely. You had Roger Staubach finally get the Super Bowl that they always said the Cowboys couldn't get.
Based on on the remaining schedule, do you think the Cowboys will win the rest?
I think they'll lose one. Can't tell you which one, but I think they'll lose one. We're going to do 2 more questions, and then we're going to call it a night.
Can Giants catch us in the NFC East?
The Giants cannot catch us on that question.
Who's better at guard, Leary or Collins?
Ooh, Collins is more raw. I think Collins will have the bigger upside because he's younger, and I think he's more athletic. But you can't go wrong with either of those two guys. Both of them are fantastic. And actually, our offensive line could be MVP in the NFL.
When did you have your first sip of rum?
My first sip of rum, oh, Lordy. My freshman year in summer school, I believe, with this wonderful lady not too far away. in college at JMU? Last question.
What's your day job?
My day job, I'm a general contractor, and I do custom woodworking and build homes. In fact, like this is one of my pieces here that I built, the bar over there, and so on.
Miss Pinky Lee Davis says, hello, Mr. Mark.
Well, hello, Pinky. Nice to meet you, and thank you for watching.
All right, that's it.
Okay, I want to thank each and every one of you guys and ladies for watching the Jobu Report and subscribing to my channel. It has been fantastic. As my wife will say, I could talk to a brick wall, and I usually will, but I enjoy talking about the Dallas Cowboys sports in general and everything else. And this was just the first time that we're going to do this. We might try some of this live streaming tomorrow during the game, and I hope you guys have a wonderful night, and go Dallas Cowboys. Thank you, and have a great one.